afternoon! I know this is nowhere near the morning, but I just wanted to get morning movie news back on track. I missed yesterday because my flight was delayed coming back from Los Angeles, but enough is enough, and there are some cool stories to cover, so please forgive the delay, but know that it'll be back tomorrow morning on time by 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, what stories prompted me to get morning movie news up in the afternoon? Well, I think the big one is that it was announced yesterday that Harvey Weinstein will team up with Disney once again after their horrible break with Miramax a few years ago to produce an Artemis Fowl franchise. That's a very successful children's franchise of books, and of course they're hoping it will be the next Harry Potter. Everybody hopes they have next Harry Potter or Twilight, but as we've seen, they rarely do. But this is a really interesting backstory in terms of like Hollywood drama and pedigree. The reason that Harvey Weinstein, even in his statement about the film, said, "If you had told me just a few years ago that I'd be working with Disney again, I would have told you were crazy." And that's because they had such a bad falling out where Disney basically ended their deal, and the Weinsteins, who had built up Miramax, lost the company to Disney. The branding, the name was all gone. But one of the projects that they've been developing while they were with Disney was this Artemis Fowl book. And when they departed, their departure deal said that if Disney ever were to make an Artemis Fowl movie, they had to work with the Weinsteins. So they're back, baby. And it'll be interesting to see Harvey working on kind of like a big franchise like this. But he's not the only one. Another interesting thing is that Alan Horn is the new head of Disney, taking over for Ross Ritchie, who was fired after John Carter. And Alan Horn famously oversaw the Harry Potter franchise when he was at Warner Brothers. So I guess he was looking at the properties on the slate and decided, hey, you know what? Let's see if we can do the same magic here at Disney. How do I feel about it? I have mixed feelings. I feel this is not a slam dunk by any means. I think Harry Potter was a special franchise. I think that it's a large adult cast, and it's kind of ode to British filmmaking was a big part of what made it so special. I think that it's not so easy to repeat as we're seeing. I think also books centering around children do very well, but I think it's harder to sell movies that center around children. I think that's a problem that Ender's Game is going to see coming up because, as a friend of mine pointed out, it has a tween kind of audience, and when you don't have full-blown teenagers, you kind of make it impossible for adults to want to, get involved. Because I think everyone can, feel, because I think with teenagers you can still keep like romantic elements and those assets, but when you go tween, it's very hard, to get anyone older than the tween demographic, and that's just not that broad. So Artemis Fowl, that seems somewhat of concern to me because it focuses on a kid. Also, I found it appealing that I'm not familiar with this book at all, but I was reading about the synopsis when Disney released this news yesterday, and they said Artemis Fowl, I believe, is a child millionaire genius and also criminal mastermind. And at first I thought that was pretty interesting, but then I remembered that like Megamind failed to do well at the box office, which I felt horrible about because I really liked that movie. I thought it was brilliant, actually. If you've never seen Megamind, the DreamWorks animated movie, I highly recommend you check it out. It's really clever, very well done. People didn't spark to that, so I don't know if a little boy evil genius will get them into theaters. And then they said, but and then another thing that I didn't like was they said, oh, well, everything gets turned on its head when he kidnaps a fairy, kind of like a commando fairy, apparently, like Tinkerbell, joins the military, which I thought that was kind of cool. But they said, she's a lot more powerful than he bargained for, but this is what bothered me. They said he kidnaps her to save his family. And I was like, another redeemed villain. Artemis Fowl can't even be evil for one movie. He's got to immediately kind of have like a silver lining or a heart of gold, and the movie will be about exploring that. I just wish that, they just make a straight up kid villain movie. That would be more interesting to me. So I don't know. And also, I have to say, I feel Disney's plate is really full with franchise work. They have, their fairy tale movies like Alice, Oz, and upcoming Maleficent. They've got their animated flicks, obviously, from both Disney and Pixar. They've got their Marvel movies, their Star Wars movies, their Muppet movies. And so if you're really going to add kind of a Harry Potter knockoff there, I don't see the need for it, and I just feel it's like an overcrowded slate. But we'll see. Artemis Fowl coming your way soon. All right, so that's the first big story of the day. The second one I wanted to cover was one of you actually asked me about this while I was away at Comic-Con and then in Los Angeles the week after with a stop in Disneyland. You said, what do I think of the news that Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler, the team of Fruitvale Station, are going to work with Sylvester Stallone to make like an Apollo Creed spin-off about his Apollo Creed's son, played by Michael B. Jordan, and kind of work with that. And did I think that was a good move? And I have to say, I think that's just really a horrible move for both of them. I think that it's so disheartening that they are kind of like positioned beautifully to move into higher fare, that they would kind of like just completely make a right turn into like Sylvester Stallone's kind of like world of reviving careers from a bygone era. I mean, both of them are just starting their careers. I don't think they need to go into that route. I think that Sylvester Stallone, while I applaud his tenaciousness and his entrepreneurial spirit and his continued stance as an artist, I think that he commands very little respect. And I think that instead of Coogler and Michael B. Jordan bringing Stallone up, I think he's going to bring them down. And also, I think I would have liked to see Coogler and Jordan separate. I feel that this is a little too much like Ryan Gosling. When I reviewed Fruitvale Station, I said Michael B. Jordan gave a performance as electrifying as Ryan Gosling's stuff in Blue Valentine that got him on the market. And I feel though that now we see Michael B. Jordan making the same mistake. I mean, Ryan Gosling just recently re-teamed with his driving director, Nicholas Winding Refn, for Only God Forgives, and the movie opened on demand at the same time as it's going into theaters. I mean, talk about embarrassing that you're supposed to have a high art movie and the studio doesn't even have the faith to launch it, theatrically, and instead they do a multi-platform wide release, which is reserved for like real clunkers or films that they just have no faith in. So that's just horribly embarrassing for Ryan Gosling and Nicholas Winding Refn, and I feel like I see Coogler and Jordan going the same route. So I don't know who advised them to do that kind of a deal. I really think it's a mess. I was hoping that Jordan was going to go, that maybe like the Jonah Hill, Leonardo DiCaprio route, try and get into some high-profile pictures. I know that he's up for Fantastic Four, do an action movie. I feel that really would have been a smarter move. And as for Coogler, I think it would have been nice to see him scooped up for a bigger studio picture instead of doing something small like this again. That's not even, something that he did. I mean, these moments in time are so pivotal. I mean, also, of course, if they win the Oscar, or if they win Oscars, that'll help them dramatically, and that'll be a whole new conversation. But I have to say, I have a review coming soon, but I saw The Butler last night, and it makes me seriously doubt that Fruitvale Station will be able to beat it. The Butler is phenomenal. So anyway, that's the second story. I think that both Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler are making a mistake, hitching their star, hitching a ride to Stallone's very leathery old star. And then the third story of the day is kind of like a business story. And I've been talking extensively here on Beyond the Trailer about how the extreme buying power of the Chinese audience, Asian audience from China, South Korea, and Japan for movie tickets is just totally swaying Hollywood. You see it's so becoming so apparent in the movies that are chosen, the cast. I mean, you have the Wolverine that just came out, where Wolverine's pretty much the only white guy in the entire movie. And it's really fascinating to see, and you have Transformers 4 coming up with a Chinese star, and you also have a Chinese star in X-Men Days of Future Past. It's just really fascinating to see the industry just like turn on a dime almost when they see a whole bunch of dimes become available in Asia. But a story broke yesterday that was fascinating, and that's that China is not paying Hollywood their cut of the profits from the films, and they're making quite a lot of money over there. Basically, the holdup, and they said, Hollywood Reporter broke this story, and basically the thing is that China hasn't been paying for months, I think since like late 2012. So they actually owe tens of millions of dollars to all the major studios. And the holdup is a dispute over this kind of new tax they want to impose, a 2% tax, like a luxury tax, I think it's called, or something. It really is just China wanting more of the take, from what I can see. And the studio said, hey, you know what? We only get 25%, I believe, of the profit or something. So China, you should pay that 2%. And at first, China was like, okay. But now they're like, you know what? No, it's really shady. It's very shady. They're like, no, Hollywood, we think you should pay it. So they're not paying any money out. And the word is that with any other country, it's just so funny to think of a country holding Hollywood for ransom. They said Hollywood would pull its product. But the problem is there's so much money to be made in China that Hollywood doesn't want to lose its momentum in winning over the audience. So they are kind of just hoping that, you know, China's going to come around and pay what they owe. But we'll see. I think this is fascinating. You know, it's like political problems that you see, you know, like Barack Obama and the president's always dealing with other countries, and now you're dealing with it in a business manner with Hollywood. And it'll be interesting to see how it goes and if this will affect long-term plans. But again, there's so much money on the line here. That's what's causing the problem, but also what's, you know, allowing the problem to continue, because no side wants to blink because they want to get a lot of money. So that's today's morning movie news. The 3 stories: Artemis, Fowl, whether or not Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan are making a mistake with Stallone, and China not paying their debts to Hollywood, tens of millions of dollars. So welcome back. Thank you for everyone for your patience for the break that morning movie news had to take while I was away. More Comic-Con coverage throughout the week. So much Comic-Con coverage. I'm still working through it. But things are getting back to normal, and they will probably be pretty much back on track starting next week with return of Movie Math on Monday. So thanks for watching. Leave down below any comments, any questions you might have, and also please know that later in the week there will be a massive day of trailer reviews where I'm going to catch up on everything there as well. So see you later. Bye.